So we got the BB803s. These are the Bryan Brothers inspired Takomo wedges, also known as the Takomo SF002, the Skyforger 002, exactly the same club, just branded with Bryan Brothers. You guys want to know, how do they compare to the Maltby Milled Max? Because they're very, very similar. So this video is for you.
Be the right club today. Yes!
What's going on, guys? G2 here with 3-Putt Bogey. Welcome back to the channel. And today we are going to do a comparison on the BB803s, or the Skyforger 002s, and the Maltby Max Milled. How do they compare? There's a lot of similarities between these two styles of wedges. So how do they really match up in terms of performance, specs, etc.? So before we get into the comparison, if you are a subscriber, welcome back. If you just found us and you're new, welcome. Take a look around after this video, see if there's anything else you like. We do very, very similar videos like this all the time. If you like it, join the community. We love to have you. Be sure to leave questions and comments. I don't think there's one comment on this channel that hasn't been replied to back us, so we are very engaging with our peoples. And let's get into what you're all here for. Okay, so we're going to start with the Takomos. So these are the BB803s. This was the Bryan Brothers collaboration with Takomo to make their own branded wedge. Now this wedge, in terms of specs and design, is exactly the same as the Takomo SF002 or the Skyforger 002. All they did was just, you know, they put their BB803 on here. Other than that, it is identical. Really, the only difference between the BB803 and the SF002 is the cost and obviously the availability. The BB803 was $119. They released 2,000 about 3 weeks ago, and they're all gone. They're going to release another 1,000. They're saying somewhere in the fall of 2025, so I guess October-ish, and that'll be it. Now the Skyforger is $99, $20 cheaper than the BB803, and is currently available for purchase. So you could basically get this in the SF002 and have it in a week. Now let's go into the specs. So we obviously did a full review on this. I think it's a fantastic wedge. I didn't really find any issues with it, other than being that this is a Bryan Brothers collaboration. My only complaint, and this is just me being a nitpicky club fitter, these ugly ferrules that they used. It's so generic, so basic. They could have done so much better, but I think these ferrules are pretty pathetic. 56 degree, which is what we got, comes in two different grinds. It comes in an F grind, which is your standard traditional kind of iron style wedge grind. It's good through all conditions. You don't really have a lot of maneuverability with it. You can't really play it open because of the sole design, but it's designed really for full swing. Now F doesn't mean full swing, but I'm going to say it does, because this is where this F grind shines, is in the full swing shots. And it is in a 10-degree bounce. The shaft length that it comes in is listed at 35 inches. When we measured it, it actually came into 34.5. The swing weight is listed at D5. When we measured it, it actually came into, for the F grind, I want to say it was about D2.5. So it was definitely below what the listed swing weight was. And the bounce is 10 degrees, and the lie is 64 degrees, which is pretty standard for a wedge. Now the 56 in the V grind, this is a higher bounce option. It's 12 degrees of bounce. It has a little relief taken out of the sole right here in the front. This has been ground down, so you have a little bit more options to open it up and play those different kinds of shots around the greens that you want. It doesn't really shine as good as the F grind does from a full swing standpoint. For all those 3/4 and in, this V grind is fantastic. Now this is also listed at 35 inches in length. It was also a ½ inch short. The swing weight is also listed at D5. This came in at about D4.5, so a little bit under what they measured. Bounce again is 12 degrees, and the lie is, of course, 64 degrees. Of the two wedges, in the 56 option, I think the V grind is the best. They also offer this in a 48 and a 52, and in that case, I would absolutely say that the F grind is the grind you should definitely be going with for those higher lofted wedges where you are mostly going to be doing more than 3/4 swing shots with them. That's when that F grind is really going to shine. Now the SF002, if you decide to not go the Bryan Brothers wedge way and go to the standard Skyforger 002, they offer a 46 degree, which is not offered with the Bryan Brothers collaboration. They also offer a 50 degree, and they also offer a 54 degree as well. And they added in a 58 too. So they give you a couple more options if you do the SF002 route, which for me is nice because sometimes the 56 doesn't match up with what your pitching wedge or gap wedge will be. You have to get that right gapping, and having those 2 degree increments all the way from 46 to 60 definitely helps you with the gapping. So there is a little bit of an edge on the SF002 over the BB803. One final feature and benefit for the Skyforger and the BB803 is that they offer full face grooves and also micro milling on those grooves. I don't know if you can see them. They kind of almost disappear with the glare here. But it's a very, very subtle milling on the face, which is a really, really great feature on a wedge because even on miss hits, if your little toe, a little heel, high, you're still going to be able to get some of that spin back that you may lose on your traditional wedge, which are typically blank on the toe and the heel. Now let's go into the Maltby Max Milled. This is a great option as well. Now we're obviously going to do a head-to-head shot comparison when we get out on the course, but in terms of the specs here and some of the benefits that the Skyforger or Bryan Brothers wedge do not have, let's go into the basic options to begin with. So the Maltby Max Milled, to start, comes in 2 different sole widths. It's either a 0.900 or you have the option of going to a 1.05 inch sole. I would almost equate that to the difference between the F grind and the V grind. They don't offer different grinds. You can see on this one, we actually had to kind of custom grind that bottom a little bit so it fit my swing a little bit better. But in terms of the physical grind that you have, you're either at the 0.900 of an inch in terms of the sole width or the 1.05 inch in terms of the sole width. If you like to do, more full swings, I would definitely go with the thinner sole. If you like to maybe do 3/4, kind of open it up, close it, get a little bit more sole interaction with the turf, then you would want to go with the 1.05. The 1.05 is technically the more forgiving of the 2 options. Now, when we get into the specifics of each one of those styles, the 0.9 and the 1.05, the loft that's available for each changes. And this is because what I just told you in terms of the forgiveness of each one of those. So this is a 0.90, we'll call it grind, okay? 0.90 grind, basically the sole width. That comes in a 50, a 52, a 54, and a 56. Now, when you get into the 1.05, you lose the 50 and the 52 options, which I think is smart because bigger sole, 50, 52, you're doing more of a full swing. it's really not going to benefit you as much. So the 1.05 starts in 54, 56, 58, and 60. Now, in terms of each one of those, it's a lot going on here. This is why I like these wedges, because the customization is really endless. So when we're talking about bounce, right? So there's no listed bounce on any, well, I lied. It's listed right here. I just never noticed it all the way up there. So the 50, which comes in the 0.9, gives you a bounce of 4 degrees. I love that bounce for a 50. The 52 comes in 6. That's pretty much standard. The 54 comes in 10. The 56 comes in 12. And that's in the 0.9 option. Now, when you go into the 1.05, they start at 54, and that comes in at 6. So it's actually a lower bounce option with a bigger sole. That is very, very interesting to me, and I think that is an interesting take on a 54-degree wedge with a lower bounce. I kind of like it. The 56 in the 105 comes in 10 degrees. The 58 in the 105 comes in 8. And then the 60 in the 105 comes in 10. So the 105, for being more forgiving, actually has less bounce because of the wideness of the sole. It's a very interesting strategy that Maltby did, and I really, really like it. I think this is where it edges out the Takomos by just a little bit. We still have that full face groove, right? Just like the Takomos did. They have the micro milling on the face. So apples to apples in terms of these. Features and benefits on wedges that I think should be an industry standard between you and me. Full face grooves and micro milling. Why is everyone not doing this? The one thing that these wedges have that really no wedge that I have seen come out in the last 15 years offers is adjustable weights. So they have, on the 0.9, you have 3 weight ports. And on the 1.05, you have 2 weight ports. And what these weights allow you to do is to adjust the sweet spot laterally along the face. Now, what Maltby has also done is you can see this relief cutout. So by doing this relief cutout, they have moved the weight of the wedge more towards the toe. And I like that as well. Now what that means is when you're opening this up, remember, when you open up the face, you're changing the path that the ball is going to take along the face. So it's going to come more this way, right? The long way of the wedge, as opposed to when it's square, you're coming up more this way, right? So we've changed that face interaction from ball to face.
That's what she said.
We're just going to keep that in there.
That's what she said.
So the toe becomes more of the sweet spot of the club. Now, when we talk about the price of the Maltby Max Milled, you can get them custom made for you, and they will vary anywhere from $80 all the way up to $120, depending on what shaft that you want in the wedge. The BB803s and the Skyforger come standard with the KBS 120 stiff flex shaft. This, you can choose whatever shaft that you like. You put in whatever you want. Or, since you watch the channel and you're probably into club making as it is, you can get just the head of whatever wedge you want, and they're $50 each. Put that in comparison with the Takomo heads, which we figured out by subtracting the cost of goods for the grip and the shaft, comes to about $72. So you're $22 cheaper just for the Maltby Max Milled head. And you're getting a couple extra features and benefits that aren't on the Takomos. Now, when it comes to the swing weight of the Maltby Max, if you have them make the wedge for you, you tell them what you want it at, and they'll do it. If you make it yourself, you make it to whatever swing weight you want. So there's no chance and getting something that's listed as a D5 and not getting it a D5. You custom make it to the swing weight that you want. And then the final thing between these two is the physical head weight of the head. Now, we did both of these, and the BB803 in the F grind came to like 297 grams, and the V grind came to like 305, 303, somewhere in that range. The head weight for the Maltby Max Milled obviously changes depending on the loft and lie that you get. They go anywhere from 298 grams all the way up to 304. And then obviously you can change that slightly by adding lighter or heavier weights into these ports. But let's talk about the materials. So the Takomo, I can't find out much about. All it says is it's cast. The feel is great. So I don't care what it's cast out of. Whatever the casting is, the feel of it feels very, very good. Now, the Maltby, we know because they're very specific in what they say and how their clubs are made. So they are form forged, means that it's pressed into a mold. Cast usually means that it's poured. Let's just call them both cast because that's really what they are. So the last thing we have to do is just check performance. So let's head out to the course and pin these up mano a mano. On a lot of the situations you will probably come across in the course of a round when you have to pull out your wedge.
All right, so we're out here at the Greenwood Par 3 course. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna start here with a few little, kind of basic chips here, nothing fancy, and then we'll slowly work into different scenarios that we may come across during the course of a round. We'll see which one performs the best. So I have 4 balls. We're gonna do 2 per wedge. And if I hit a crap shot, we're gonna redo it because we wanna try to get the best performance out of these. So this is just a nice, easy chip. I don't know how these greens react yet, so we'll find out. And we're gonna start with the Bryan Brothers. Okay, they're a little slow. So we'll try that again. That's decent. And for our balls, we are gonna all use Pro V1s. This is a ball that I normally use. So we're gonna try to keep it as variable free as possible. Yeah, a little fast. There's a little hill right there. Those two weren't great. All right, let's go to the Maltby here. Now I can tell you right now the Maltby sets up a little bit more closed than the Bryan Brothers, for sure. Much different feel, a little bit clickier. But definitely has a little bit more spin for those shots. We're gonna do these again. This time we're gonna start with the Maltby first and see if we can't better those. Get it down about 10 feet in front of the hole and let it release. Yeah, that Maltby stops really quickly. Yeah, you can see that. That was the Maltby. Now let's go to the Bryan Brothers. Bryan Brothers feel a little bit heavier than the Maltby. We know that the head weights are the same, but it just has a little bit heavier feel. It could be the shaft. It's a 120 gram shaft. I think the shaft in the Maltby is 90. Well, that worked out pretty good too. All right, okay, so we're gonna move to a little longer shot here. We got a ton of green to work with. You guys know these are kind of my favorite shots right here. We're going up into the hill. which means we got to give it a little bit more. It's a little bit, grass is a little thin over here. So we can be aggressive with this and we'll see how it spins. Now the grass is wet too, so we're getting a good feel of those grooves and how they work in a wet condition. I feel like we got to aim just right of the pin here and let that kind of, it's going to check and bounce left, at least is what I'm seeing. So the Bryan Brothers first. Yeah, we hit right into that hill, checked up on us pretty hard. All right, Bryan Brothers one more time. Try to put a little bit more juice on this. That's better. Okay, it is that, the greens are definitely grabbing. We'll see, I would expect the Maltby to really grab because that has been so far the spinniest of the two. So we may have to hit this just a touch harder. Okay, got a little bit of a flyer on that one. That should be good. Checked up. It's not terrible. So with the exception of the first shot, all of these are within, well, 8 feet, we'll call it. Got 45 yards here. We're obviously watering the greens, so they're going to be a little bit soft. But it's kind of a stock little chippy 56. 45 to the pin. We probably want to land this about, I don't know, 35. So we're going to start with the Maltby. Okay, little long, but it came off really good. They definitely don't have as nice of a sound as the Bryan Brothers do. Take a little smaller swing. It's gonna be long too. All right, let's go to the Bryan Brothers. That's pretty good. One more. That's going to be real good. Okay, yeah, those were nice. So with the exception of that second Maltby shot, all of those were pretty good. We're gonna flip this camera around and go to our next hole. So this hole we have 82 yards. This is kind of right in that really almost full swing shot for me. So I think this is good. It's playing a little bit down. It's super hot right now. I mean, it's 7 o'clock in the morning and it's already pushing 85. My palms are sweaty.
Knees weak, arms are heavy. Vomit on my sweater already. Mom's spaghetti.
Okay, so we're gonna start with the Maltby 85-56. It's about right here for me. Let's try to be a little bit more aggressive here. We got our swing. Same result, we may get a better bounce. Okay, same spot. Now we'll go to the Bryan Bros. All right, 85, Bryan Bros. We're gonna try the same swing. That's right on it. Just front. We gotta swing just a little harder, I think. But I can tell you the Bryan Brothers definitely feels better on this more full swing. It's not as clicky, it's very soft, feels really good. Much better trajectory. All right, so our final test is going to be a shot that I like the most, and we're going to be right on the fringe here, and we're going to try to do some low spinners. Now I would typically use a 50 for this kind of shot, but we are going to try it with these. This will really test those grooves. That's spun. Well, the Maltby definitely is spinning. Now we'll try the Bryan Brothers. Oh boy, it's like a dead heat right now. Wow, okay.
So we're going to start with the Bryan Brothers wedges. And here are the criteria that I used in terms of rating. So it was the cost, the tech, the looks, the feel, and the spin. And then we give it an overall rating. 5 stars for each would be the top. So for the cost, I gave it 4 stars. I think at $72 for a head, it is really, really good in terms of the cost. $119 for a full wedge, complete with the KBS Tour stiff flex shaft and a lambkin grip. Or if you went with the Skyforger 2, it's $99. The cost is fantastic. The tech in it, pretty basic. I gave it 3 stars out of 5. You get the shaft that you get the grip that you get. You can maybe use mid-size. I think they have that as an option. But in terms of anything else, it's all kind of the same. Now, the 3 stars includes the full face milling and the toe to heel full face grooves. I think those are probably some of the better things in terms of tech that this wedge has. The looks of it, it's pretty. It's clean, it's sleek, it's sexy, it sets up really nice to the ball, and you feel like you have that ability to open it and close it and not really lose the aspect or the visualization of the club. So I really do like that. The feel of it is fantastic. I thought that between the two, this was definitely the better feeling club. It felt soft, it felt responsive, it was not clicky no matter where you were hitting it on the face, and I like to use all of the face. So it felt great on the toe, as it did on the center, as it did on the heel, as it did high, and as it did low. So the feel was pretty good. And the spin, granted, these are new wedges, so they're going to spin more than something that you get and you've played 15, 20, 25 rounds in. The spin is always going to reduce in terms of wear and use, but right now it's awesome. So the BB803 SF002 is getting 21 out of 25 stars. Now let's see how that compares to the Maltby Max Milled. So we did the .90 sole width, 5612. The specs were practically identical in terms of bounce and loft. So for the cost, I have to give Maltby 5 stars. Their direct-to-consumer cost is unbelievable at $50 for the cost of that head. And then when it comes to tech, I also have to give them 5 stars because not only did they have the full face milling, just like the BB803 did, and the full face grooves, just like the BB803 did. It has weight relief cut out off of the heel of the club. It also has the 3 ports that allow you to change the weight on the toe. I think that's great tech that a lot of people can utilize. I'm also factoring in to tech the availability that you have in terms of customization. You're unlimited and endless in your selection of shaft and grip and swing weight. It comes however you want it. And you got to give 5 stars for that, because you can build this exactly the way you want. Now, when it comes to the looks, not nearly as pretty. It's more utilitarian. It's not as pretty by any means like the BB803. It's, like I said, more utilitarian. If you don't care about that, looks aren't important to you. For the feel, I thought that it was lacking feel in comparison to the BB803. At times on those short to medium chips and pitches, it felt clicky to me. And the only problem with the click is you don't really get a good gauge of how you hit the ball without physically having to look up and see. With the BB803, I knew whether I hit it well or not just by the feel and the sound. For the Maltby, it was a little bit harder to determine where that ball was going if I didn't physically look up. So that feedback, that responsiveness wasn't quite as good as the Takomo. And the spin was interesting. I'm giving it 5, just like I gave the Takomo 5, because I think they each had their limitations when it comes to spin. The Maltby lost spin numbers during the full swing, right? Those grooves being so close together and so thin, I don't think gives enough time. Like, you're swinging so fast, that ball doesn't have enough time to really react to those grooves. So for fuller swings, it did not spin it much. But for slower, like your chips and your kind of medium length pitches, it definitely spun, because that ball, the swing speed is slower, so that ball is riding up the face at a slower pace, allowing it to grab onto that grooves. In reverse, the Takomo spun a little bit less on those slower conditions, but really spun at the full speed. So they're basically kind of complete opposites of each other in terms of spin performance, but they were both great. There's certain situations where they may not spin as much, but I think all in all, that is a 5-star for the Maltby. And unfortunately, guys, it brings it to 21 out of 25. So these are exactly in a dead heat. The only difference is where they lost kind of those points. The Maltby outbeat the BB803 in cost and tech, but the BB803 beat out the Maltby in terms of looks and feel. So they're kind of like, you got to decide for yourself which is the best. I think either one of these are fantastic options. Use that criteria as kind of a method for you to determine what's best for you. What are you looking for? Feel over looks, cost over feel, whatever it is. Find that criteria that's important to you, add up the stars, and then figure out if that may be the right wedge for you. So I really had fun doing this. I think this was a great test, and I think it's a great testament that there are so many good clubs out there that are not OEM. No club manufacturer does everything perfect. So it's okay to have a mixed bag. Give yourself the best chance that you have to make the best score that you can and get the best equipment that will suit your game. And it doesn't all have to be the same brand. Until next time, make sure that you swing as hard as you can, just in case you hit the ball. Thanks for watching. G2 out.